HDZero is the latest and most exciting innovation in the FPV hobby today. And if you're like me, you're probably looking for an affordable way to enter this digital world. Now, one of the most integral parts of any FPV system is the goggles. So today we're taking a look at the FatShark Scout HD, and this might be the cheapest way to enter the HDZero world. Okay, so here's the box right here. Pretty nice small box, compact. It says Scout HD on the front here, digital FPV headset. And it does say FatShark on top here, although we are talking about HDZero. HDZero did initially start off as a collaboration between FatShark and DiviMath. Now, based upon the picture on here, we can obviously tell it's a box style goggles, which is why probably it's so affordable. But at the time of filming, this is the only standalone goggles in the HDZero system. All right, so let's open this box up. I have my unboxing knife right here, and as usual, I'm gonna try not to damage this box. Tear this off. Cool, so let's just open this up and see what's inside here. Nice, pretty nice packaging. So anyways, it's a foam insert, remove that, and you're greeted with the goggles immediately. So let's take this out. Ooh, nice soft padding here, like leather. Not too heavy, put this to the side. Then we have a headband here for the goggles. Really big and meaty. Looks like some more padding here, probably for your nose. And then we have a power cable. This thing feels premium. Ooh, very supple cord. A FatShark with a QR code on here so you can scan and go to the website, probably download the firmware and the manual, which is good. Then we have some stickers, FatShark stickers. You can put this thing everywhere. And obviously this is the Shark Bite system, so you have the Shark Bite logo on here as well. And then you have looks like a microfiber cloth. And that's it, nothing else in here. Let's put this box to the side. All right, the first thing here obviously is this big old FatShark logo on the front. They want to make it known that they're the one who made this goggles. It's pretty nice. What stands out to me, first of all, is just these little fins right here. Now, obviously this thing here is for heat dissipation. When I looked at this in the pictures, I thought it was just a heat sink. No, I thought it was, it really isn't. I was like, why is it curved this way? Maybe because if you have airflow, you're flying, air can just channel across and dissipate the heat. But under further inspection, it's actually vents. There's some louvers in here. And obviously there's a fan in here, so this can expel the hot air through these vents. So that's pretty cool. Besides that, you have two connections here for your antenna. Obviously they're SMA connectors, so you can add any 5.8 antenna on here, and I plan to do that as well. Besides that, we also have other antennas as well that you can't see. You also have two patch antennas behind this FatShark logo here, hidden behind the goggles. So that's pretty cool, and you don't have to buy those obviously because it's included with the goggles. Now on the side here, you have these navigation wheels, a forward and back, and looks like a return button on here. And on the side profile here, nothing crazy, just the FatShark logo and then a port here for the power plug. And obviously they didn't include any batteries or any battery power source. Obviously this has a XT60 plug. We'll come back to that a little later. Now talking about batteries and powering this up, you want to use somewhere between a 2 and a 4S battery. Today we'll be using the 4S 850 milliamp hour battery, and we'll use that a little bit later. All right, besides that, on the opposite side, you have a port here. It says FW update, and that's for firmware updates. And that's how you'll update the firmware to your VTX. Besides that, down here, pretty straightforward. It just says FatShark, the model number, made in China, and then the website for the FatShark. You have a QR code here as well. And then two vents. I do think it is for ventilation. This is the only way air can either come in and then leave out to the top. All right, coming to the actual goggles here. It looks like a nice place. It looks very premium, not bad. It's okay. The material here is very soft. It looks like leather and it feels like leather. I don't know how long this is gonna last, obviously, with the environment. Now, the display on here, it's obviously covered by a plastic. Let's remove the plastic because we can't use it without that. Now, this is a really nice 5-inch TFT display right here. Really nice looking. There's a mirror on top, so obviously it's reflecting the image so you can see it. And this is a 1080p resolution screen. So that's really good because some of the other goggles are limited to 720 or 820 or 840. And that's really interesting because there really isn't any 1080p camera on the market right now for the HDZero system. But that just shows you that this thing will be future-proof if they do eventually go to a 1080p camera and VTX. Besides that, you have a little slot here for a micro SD card, and that's used for firmware updates, also for your DVR. We'll talk about that a little bit later as we update the firmware on this goggles. Now I'm pretty curious here because a lot of box style goggles don't support the use of glasses, and I do wear glasses. We'll see, let's try it right now. As far as I'm looking at this though, it looks a little narrow. I don't know if this is gonna fit my glasses. So let's try it. All right, so oh man, it doesn't work with my glasses. I wish it did. Yeah, these are definitely too wide. If you have some narrow glasses, it might work. I think it could work with narrow glasses. Anyways, let's put this to my face and see how it fits. Wow, this is perfect. Now, we don't have the display on here, but this will provide a 44 degrees field of view when you are looking in here. I'll be honest with you guys, the fit on this to my face, obviously this will be very subjective, but it fits on my face a little bit better than the stock or factory DJI system. I can see why that's, and the reason I'm saying that is, yeah, this is night and day. This can obviously accommodate my glasses, but there's crazy light leaks. This is a trade-off, guys, honestly. Do you want light leaks but have the ability to use your glasses? Or in my case, I can't use my glasses, but there's no light leak at all. So let me get two antennas. I'll put two antennas on top of this so that we don't fry anything, although this is a receiver in here. So let's get my antennas, my new antennas, well, kind of new antennas. Put these on here and then power this up. Okay, so we have our antennas here. I'm using luminaire antennas here for now. Obviously they're SMA connection, and they're obviously for the 5.8 gigahertz system. Now this unfortunately doesn't have a switch or power switch. I don't know why manufacturers don't do that. All right, let's plug this puppy in here and see what we see. All right, so here it is. Shark bite. Scanning done. And then you have your 8 channels. All right, so let's put this on and see how this thing looks in my eyes and my head and see if I can see this. That's pretty awesome. Okay, so this, I wish I could use this with my goggles. I might, this is Velcro, right? Yes, it's Velcro. I don't think it's gonna make a difference anyhow. Let's see. That's freaking tight though. All right, guys, so I have my I have my glasses on now. I might have to modify this. This can accept some glasses, and it's as easy as just, so if you take a look at this right here, there's a foam piece right here that's curved and a foam piece right here, and it's not bad. Hardly considering moving it. I just removed it. This is double side tape, and there's gonna be some light leaks if you remove it, obviously. Oh yeah, that's doable. Can I put this on here? Oh man, I retract my statement. This is gonna be good for glasses. I'm using my glasses, guys. I'm using my glasses. All right, guys, so after some trying, I'm happy to report that I can use my glasses with this goggles. It does work really well, and there's a little pathway here, a tunnel on the side is really hard to see. I haven't seen many people talk about this, but it does accommodate glasses. So let's try it one more time. That's pretty good, and there's not much light leak. I have more light leak from the nose area right here, and you do have this pad for that. So I will be putting the nose pad on here eventually. Now, if you're gonna use this with the SD card, and I do suggest you do that, I think you will have to, it's kind of mandatory because you do wanna run this on the latest firmware. Make sure you get an SD card that's 32 gigs or less. Now, you're definitely gonna need one of these SD cards because you do wanna update the firmware in here to give you better features, just like canvas mode. And you will have to be using it as well to update the VTX as well. That's pretty cool. We have our SD card ready to go. Let's go to the computer, download the latest firmware for this, put this in here, update the firmware, and then we'll go for a flight. Okay, so we're here at the computer. I have my goggles here, I have my battery, and I have my SD card in the computer. So the first thing you want to do is go to the HDZero website and download the appropriate firmware for your Scout HD. So let's take a look at that. Here's the HDZero website. You just go to support, downloads, and you can see everything available to you for the HDZero system, including manuals, and you can see all the updates and the release notes, what has changed, in each update. So obviously the big one here is the support for canvas mode. That's pretty cool. And the big thing here is that, as you can see, there's still support for the Scout HD, which is really reassuring. So that's pretty cool. You just click on the zip file here, it downloads to your folder. I've already done that. And you have this zip file right here, which makes sense. You unzip that, this is the latest revision. And then you have all these right here for each VTX and for any VRX. Today we're just concerned about the Scout HD. You just double click that and then it's gonna unzip it. In my case, it does it to a temporary file, and then you just wanna copy and paste this to your SD card. I've already done that. In fact, I've already saved it to my hard drive and then sent it to the root directory of my SD card. There's nothing else on here. So all I have to do is just eject this SD card from the computer, put the SD card in my goggles, and then we're just gonna power this up, and then the firmware should start automatically. All right, so let's power this up, and there it is, it's doing it. It's writing it. Write done. All right, write done. RX, write HDZero RX, which is good. Write done. All right, firmware update successful. Repower VRX now. So let's do that. Shark bite. Very good. All right, so that's all in there. Nothing crazy. Okay, so we're back at the table and the firmware was successfully updated on this Scout HD. Now, it did take a while. It did take around 6.5 to 7 minutes to update the whole firmware. So make sure that you have pretty good batteries and that it's relatively charged so that it can do the whole process. So now let's just put this strap on here and see how it looks finally. So we have our strap, everything looks, it doesn't look equal though. So let's bring it back out some more. Let's see how it fits. All right, this is not bad, guys. How do I look? Cool, pretty amazing. Can I plug this in? I just want to see how this looks in my eyes here. Can I fly with this? This thing is great. It's so sharp. Yeah, you get that box style goggles feel. That's cool, guys. All right, guys, so the strap is on here. This thing feels amazing. It feels so light and the image is clear as far as the text and the image that I'm seeing on here. So we're gonna go for our first flight. The drone that we'll be using today is the Mobula 7. This just came out and it does have HDZero built into it. So it's one of the first manufacturers supporting the HDZero system with a bind and fly. So this is pretty cool. And we'll see if other manufacturers jump upon the HDZero train as well. Now, if you want to see a review on this drone, I've made a video on this and I'll leave a link above and below in the description. So let's take this goggles for a spin and see how the image looks. Alright guys, so back from our test flight, and the Scout HD performed very well. I'm really impressed with the performance of these glasses. Actually, it exceeded my expectations, guys. So yeah, let's break it down and talk about it. Okay, so the first thing to talk about is the form factor and just this whole ergonomics of the goggles. So as soon as I put this on, this thing felt really comfortable and light. The leather on the goggles here, this padding here is really, really comfortable. And as I said before, this thing is a really smaller goggles compared to the competitors. You know, this is a very subjective thing, but the shape of it fits my face very, very well, guys. On top of that, I was able to wear my goggles. Typically with box style goggles, you know, it's hit and miss. Sometimes you can or can't wear your goggles. In this case, you do have two cutouts here, one here and one here. So there's a little pathway or a tunnel to accommodate glasses. Now, besides that, everything was good. I'm flying this obviously in a hotter or warm climate. Never wanted to have any fogging of the lens here. It was pretty cool. Now, there is a fan that's built into this goggles, and it comes on automatically once you power on the device. And yes, the fan is kind of loud, but it does a really good job exhausting all the air and keeping this whole environment well ventilated. So never wanted to have an issue with that. All right, so moving on to the image, which is probably the most important, topic or specs of these glasses. Now, the image coming from this goggle is more than adequate, guys. This thing is superb. Now, I noticed that initially when I powered this up, even before I connected this to the drone or the VTX, and just the text and the image on the goggles here was just surprisingly clear. And now I initially wore it without my glasses, but after I figured out I could use my glasses, it was even clearer and even sharper. Once you connect the drone and the camera is connected, you can see the image. The image was very clear. But I do have to say though, even though the camera isn't a 1080p camera, it did give a good image. And that's reassuring because when there are some 1080p cameras in the market or eventually in the market, then we might have even a better resolution in our goggles here. One thing that was very noticeable was when I put this on was that the image wasn't as bright. Now, I'm not expecting this thing to be crazy bright, but I guess I'm comparing it to my DJI goggles. Even my box style analog goggles seems to be adequately bright. And this one here isn't as bright. It's not a deal breaker, you can still see it. I wish it was a little bit brighter, or I wish I had the option to change the brightness. And we'll talk about that later. Besides that, the image was very fluid. HDZero is living up to the hype. Very low latency, very smooth image. No stuttering, everything is just on par, and immersive experience, guys. All right, talking about image, let's talk about the DVR. The DVR on here is pretty good. The default setting on here is auto start and stop, and that was kind of convenient for the first 2 or 3 flights. But as I'm doing testing, then it really wasn't convenient to record every bit. And this starts recording automatically once you have this thing powered up. Now, luckily there's an option in here to turn that off, and I do have it now set to manual. So now before I fly, I just have to hit this button and it starts to record automatically. Besides that, you have 2 file formats. I have the default format in here and I don't have any issues with it. I did observe though that the image in my goggles here obviously is a 1080p screen, although my camera here is not 1080p. The image is clearer in my goggles opposed to the DVR. And the DVR isn't bad by any means. In fact, it's probably one of the best that I've used so far. All right, talking about signal bars, let's talk about the reception of this goggles. This thing performed very well, guys, really, really well. Obviously, you can see in the image, we have a lot of telemetry on there. And this thing is pretty special because you have quadversity. You have 4 antennas on here, obviously 2 patch or directional antennas, and then you can put whatever you want on top here. I have 2 omnidirectional antennas on here, and that works pretty well. These are pretty good luminaire antennas. Now, during my test, I did have this set at 25 milliwatts the whole day, and it worked pretty well. So I was kind of surprised how well it worked at 25 milliwatts. I actually thought it was at 200, which is the maximum of this VTX. Obviously, I'm facing towards the water. It's kind of hard to see or orient myself, but I'm flying usually left or right of me when I'm flying. And each antenna did a good job showing me the signal, the performance. Antennas 2 and 4 obviously are the directional ones, and you can see that as I go towards the play area where I usually have typical reception issues. And you can see that these 2 are going significantly lower, and then it's depending more on the Omni antennas, and it usually has better reception with these 2 as well. Now, talking about the analog and the analog system, I'm comparing this to that, and I'm trying to test the image and the reception of this. That's one of the biggest things on going digital. You have better reception or better image. And it worked just as described on the HDZero website, where they're doing as much information as possible, even if some packets or data isn't received by the VRX. So it's gonna try its best to keep and maintain that image. And that's why you see speckles somewhere in certain places, but the rest of the information coming to the VRX, the image is 100% clear. So it's a little bit different than analog in the sense that in analog, the whole image tends to just gradually fade away. In this case, you do get some speckles. The information or that data is either corrupted or hasn't been received to the VRX, so it can't do anything with that. And you know, it's not bad. I kind of like it. Now, where it's a little bit interesting to me is the fall off. And to me, with the analog system, I can have a better determination of how my reception is going, if it's gonna taper off. If I keep that trajectory, if I keep doing the same thing, I'm gonna eventually and gradually lose visuals with the analog system. Now, this is very similar to that. They try to incorporate that into the technology of the HDZero system. In this case, it felt like it went from clear to some static. And if you just kept that same trajectory, that same path, it would just drop off really aggressively and almost the whole screen would just go to static. So it's not a bad thing. It is giving you a warning that you are losing reception. And you know, having said that, besides having the 4 bars for each antenna, you also have like a LQ link quality for your visuals as well, VLQ, which is good. And that tells you how much information is coming and the quality of it. So you have a lot of information coming to you to dictate the performance of the visuals. A lot of information. I like that. That's awesome. All right, so let's talk about the battery life on this. They didn't include any battery with this goggles. All you have is this cord right here. Now that's pretty cool. This thing here is rated for between 2 and 4S. I was using the 4S 850 milliamp hour battery, and that worked pretty well. I can just put this in my pocket. Didn't have any issues. I flew like a whole bunch of packs and even over a couple days and didn't have to recharge it. So the battery consumption isn't crazy. Now, talking about battery life, I did have an issue with the OSD. As I said, I'm using a 4S battery and this thing is rated for 2S to 4S. And numerous times I would get a low battery warning on the OSD. And it's right in the place of your signal or reception for your antennas. And I don't know why it's on there. It's kind of weird. These are fully charged batteries. It was just sporadic. Sometimes I would get it and it would stay the entire flight. And now it's to the point where I can't get it off. Sometimes I would unplug the drone, unplug the goggles, replug everything, and then it would go away. So I don't know what's up with that. That's kind of a quirk in there. If anyone knows how to fix that, let me know. But I wish there was an option to either turn that off completely, because we all know what's low voltage on these. Okay, my last gripe about the power system is just going back to this, is I wish there was a power switch on these goggles. I don't know what's going on with these manufacturers. They make really good products, but there has to be a reason why no one wants to put a power switch on the goggles. Like, why is that? Like, I think we all just want to keep this attached to our heads, have the battery either attached here or in our pockets, and just have a switch when it's time to start again. Now, overall, these goggles are great. This is really a good goggle, especially for the price, but there are some areas of concern. Obviously, I addressed some of this earlier, but we're just gonna talk about some things that I have some concerns about, and maybe they can fix in the future, whether it be a future version of this, or maybe in software and firmware updates. Let's talk about the first one, and that's the battery warning. I think that could be a software update that can fix that. You know, that battery warning is annoying. I had to double, triple check that this thing was charged and it was showing the right voltage, but that voltage warning is annoying. All right, the next thing is just this navigation button here, but it's kind of hard to navigate. I know that we're using the center button here as also the record button, but it's just forward, back, or forward, yeah, forward and back, and then also a back button. So if this is forward, this has to be back, and then this has to be back or out of return out of menu. So it's difficult. Obviously, the center one is the select, but even just to get into some of the menu, you would think it would be the center one, but it's the forward button. It's just a quirky layout. Maybe have a directional pad, like, you know, front, back, left, right. That would be great. All right, on the same topic of this navigation button here is just the menu. The menu on here isn't that great, and the menu doesn't give you a lot of options. As I said before, like the brightness, the saturation, there's no way to change that. Stuff like, as I said, this warning menu. I think the menu could be a little bit more vast, giving me more options. Some of the stuff that's not in here could easily be, generated in a firmware and give me the option to change these things. So you already have the user input here. I can change it with this right here, these 3 buttons. So why not give me the option to make the screen brighter or dimmer, or turn the fan on or off? Maybe the fan needs to be on 100%, maybe. What about this battery warning? I just think there's a lot of features in here that's omitted. And yes, you can say that this is a budget goggles for the HDZero system, but guess what? It is your only goggles, at least at the time of recording, for the HDZero system. So I do feel like, yeah, there should be some more control in here. Okay, the last concern obviously is a hardware issue, and that obviously can't be changed, but I do wish there was some inputs and outputs for this goggles. This might be a proprietary move on their part so that you can buy other products, but as I said before, there's no other HDZero goggles by this brand, by FatShark, on the market. So obviously, outputs would help you to record or send to a monitor or something. The inputs are even more important. If I wanted to use an HDZero module, maybe one that's better in the future, or maybe you want to have analog in here, that'd be great. Some of the other competitors or other goggles have an analog input, and therefore, you can stick an analog module on here and have the best of both worlds, analog and digital. So what's my conclusion on this goggles, the Scout HD? I think overall this is a really good goggles overall. The quality is great. It's light. It has really good resolution. The image is great on this, and the price is really affordable, guys. But just for the price of a VRX for your traditional analog goggles, you can buy this whole system here. So having said all that, who is this product for, guys? Who is this for? Well, I would say this is a product for a person like me. Now, I buy these things, and if I didn't need it, I wouldn't buy it. And I say that because if you're a person like me who is already on the DJI system, so you have digital goggles and you also have a module on here so you can fly your analog drones, then the Scout HD is perfect for you. Why is that? Well, I don't really own any additional analog goggles. I'm using my DJI goggles both for DJI and for analogs. So it really wouldn't make sense to buy a module or VRX, which is around $200 to $250, and then buy an additional analog goggles like a FatShark or SkyZone for another $300 to $600. So now you're talking about $500 at least, going to $800. So it really doesn't make any sense when I can just pay $250 for this. Now this is also good for a beginner who is probably flying a goggles with a RTF kit. So if you have an RTF kit and you're considering going digital and you haven't bought an analog goggles yet, or you probably think analog is gonna go to the wayside or analog is gonna fade away, you may not wanna invest into analog again. So if you're that person, then you might wanna consider this, because this is $230 to $250. You might wanna go straight from your RTF kit, which is analog, straight into the digital world. Now you obviously have the option to go into DJI, but if you feel like you wanna go with the HDZero way, then this might be a viable option for you. Now, if you're the pilot that has a traditional analog goggles, then I'm sorry, this may not be for you. It doesn't make any sense. You have a pretty premium goggles. All you have to do is buy the VRX, attach that to your goggles, and you're good to go. All right, guys, so let me know what you think about the Scout HD. Is this for you? Is this something that you might want to consider? Is this a bargain in your opinion? The price point, this has already been on the market for a few months, so yes, there is a chip shortage going on, but this has already been designed and manufactured. So the price of this technically shouldn't go up unless they're making new versions of it. Now, if you want to see how the DJI system performs or how this Mobula 7 HDZero performs, I've made that video and I'll leave it linked right here for you. Now, if you want to see a comparison video between the DJI system and the HDZero system, I'll be making that video very shortly. So hit that subscribe button and therefore you'll be notified whenever I do drop that video. So thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Peace.